I'd like to call to order the City of Saugatuck Council meeting for June 24th, 2024. Please join me as we say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk, please call the roll.
Anderson,
Here.
Baldwin.
Here.
Dean,
Here.
Gardner,
Here.
Muncy,
Here.
Stanton, White,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Mayor Stanton is off tonight. Can I please get a motion to excuse her absence?
Make a motion to excuse Mayor Stanton from tonight's meeting.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. On to the city manager comments. You would?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. So I have one thing in particular to add to the manager's report, but I can probably wait to do that during the staff report. So no other comments tonight.
Okay, wonderful. Any agenda changes or deletions? Okay, we have no guest speakers tonight that I'm aware of. So we have a speaker, but I believe she has to move to public comment. Mr. Capican, did you wish to speak? Okay, you are not running right now? Okay, please, I'm sorry. Let the record show we are having a speaker, Mr. Dean Kapinga to speak. Thank you.
For the agenda
Oh,
change.
sorry.
Make a motion to add County Commissioner Dean Kapinga to the agenda as a guest speaker.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Please put your podium. My apologies.
It's great seeing everybody. The town is packed.
Yeah.
I mean, thank goodness that it is. Many things are going on with us. I would just like to start out with Judge Baker gave her annual report to us last week, and she just mentioned these stats, which I think, you'd be interested in too. The highest year on record, some 2,663 new cases that were filed. And just to talk about Myrene, she's here, as far as we have you knew that we're putting the addition on for the new judge. And that's on schedule and it's going really well. I don't know if you heard about this whole thing with the time capsule. So we're digging the cornerstone down, we found a time capsule. So we tried to make it a special event with the Historical Society, as far as opening up the box, seeing what's there. And, they had just had a record of the old building, the proceedings that took place to actually build the new courthouse. Then they had some magazines and it was just very interesting, but we put a new one in for this one, for our time period, which was great. But anyway, just things like this, the court summoned some 4,950 county residents as potential jurors. Never knew it was that high. With some 2,084 were confirmed as jurors. I mean, just a large number of the community being involved in this. Also, we had just a report from the health department. And I've been involved with the county a long time. I should know what's going on in the health department. They gave a report of all the things that they do. And I was like, you're kidding me, they do that? We should all know that. Let me just give you some of the information they gave us. They're involved in environmental health for wells, septic tanks, soil erosion, restaurant inspections, groundwater contamination, beach samplings. They plan health education for students. Personal health, immunizations, hearing, vision, children's special health care, provide education, on-site inspections. They do planning and preparedness, provide health need assessments, community health improvement plans, and activities. They contribute to improving community and quality of life in Allegan County in so many ways. And I'm going to make sure I point people in that direction because I'm like, oh, they do that and that and that. So we should be very thankful to have the health department that we have because they're running at it, as far as all the things that we do. I think all of you are aware that we did the groundwater study. We spent probably about 2 years on it, and our engineers are finally to the point of getting a plan together. And I'm just reviewing the plan that we're going to send out to the townships and cities where they're going, yeah, we agree with this. We agree with the educational part of it. We agree to be part of it in this way. And you should be getting that shortly. And then let me see, what else did I have? Spongy moss. I don't think that affects the city much or not. Have you had it?
Not that I'm aware of.
We've had just.
I don't know what it is.
If you go to the east side of the county and even the Hamilton area, It is like millions and millions and millions of them. And it's been a cry from many of the townships and cities going, you know, what are you gonna do? And we've talked to the Conservation District about even flyovers. And there's also just information, you know, for residents as far as they can put tape on it. There's a bag they can put on it. There's different sprays they can put on trees.
Curious, yeah, I'm curious, could you, what is that again?
It's a spongy moth.
Spongy moth, and,
They eat the leaves of the
Moth.
trees, or really wreck
Moth,
the tree.
yeah.
Yeah. So they're really dangerous. And just so you know this too, I think all of you know that we've been trying to run on the shoreline erosion, and especially just the roadway here. You know, so we gave a tour probably 3 weeks ago of our legislators that came down on a bus, did a tour of the shoreline. Just also know that we had a meeting in Lansing with all the legislators that are affected in our area and said, we're looking for funds to try to take care of this problem. And we're talking about it. We're trying to get them involved in it and seeing what money we can get for it. Also know that the Craig Atwood from the Road Commission, he has set aside $400,000 as far as to try to accumulate some funds because he knows it's going to cost a lot of money to do this. But have a great meeting. Thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to the first public comment session on agenda items only. If you'd like to make a public comment, please approach the podium, state your name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone in the audience care to make a public comment? Anyone online? Seeing none, we'll close our first public comment session. Move on to the consent agenda now on page 3 of your packets. If the manager would like to tee us up.
Sure, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. On your consent agenda this evening is approval of the special meeting minutes from June 10, 2024. There's a MERS 457 employer contribution addendum related to my employment agreement and resolution to authorize qualified institutions to provide investment services for the city and authorize city officers to act as signatories on behalf of the city, essentially our city treasurers left us, as we've discussed, and there was also a need to update the signatories at the bank related to our new mayor pro tem from a few months ago, as well as me as new city manager, and then the city clerk, and taking on some of Peter's responsibilities.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion Dean, second Anderson. Is this a roll call? Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, on to staff reports, starting on page 19 with our city manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. So a couple of updates since I completed my report last week. Good news with Oval Beach. The additional testing by the health department showed that the E. coli levels are not at a concerning level. So they advised us that the advisory was lifted, and so we've sent out notice as it relates to that. So that's good news there. Update related to the Village Square Playground as it relates to the original lawsuit and the claim of appeal. Regarding the initial lawsuit, as you recall, there was a motion filed for a temporary restraining order, which was granted by the court. And so there's some quick action by the city to eventually settle that case within 8 days. So as we had filed the initial insurance claim and insurance made a decision to assign defense counsel, we pretty much resolved the case. So I had reached out to them with hopes that they would reimburse us for some of our costs, as there was quite a bit of costs in doing the work that our city attorneys did. So they've agreed, based on the timeline that we discussed, to reimburse a little over $10,000. So we have some dollars coming back as it relates to the original lawsuit. And then insurance has also agreed to provide us with defense counsel related to the claim of appeal as well. So Jake Whitty, Wayne from his firm, myself, we met with the attorney with Plunkett Cooney last week. It's actually the same attorney that's handling the electric case as it relates to the Dune Ridge lawsuit. So they are going to be kind of taking over the lead as it relates to the claim of appeal. So we got them up to speed. And so that'll be something that's covered by insurance as well.
Excellent news. Thank you. Any questions for the city manager?
Just a thank you to the staff and to yourself for an excellent job on that response to the E. coli result last week. A very quick response by city staff, and I'm just really proud of you guys. You did a really good job working with the county health department, so thank you.
Thank you.
To that, I'd like to add that I don't think we would have gotten our legal fees covered without the dogged interrogation of our city manager, and I very much appreciate that. Okay, we'll move on now to treasurer report. I know we are absent one treasurer. Do we want to do an update at all, or can we save that for the Plant Moran situation? I don't know how you want to do that.
No particular updates unless there's questions. Certainly our city clerk's here and covering some of those traditional duties and can answer any particular questions as well.
Okay. With that, we can move on to the clerk's report.
Any questions? I'm here to answer them for you.
Any questions for the clerk? Okay. Planning and zoning, back to you.
I suspect there's a planning and zoning update, but I'll let your fellow council member update you on that as it relates to the planning commission, but otherwise happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic. DPW? We have our superintendent, Mr. Herbert, in the audience.
Good evening, council. Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Just a quick update on a couple of the unsightly construction sites out there. So one being Village Square Playground. You will see GMS working on installing irrigation this week. That's probably going to take the duration of the week. There's a lot of tree roots in between that, the sidewalk and the street curb area that we have to contend with, but we hope that that'll be done by week's end, in which case next week we'll get some sod installed in that park, and hopefully we're done with it until maybe a couple tree plantings in the fall, and then maybe some concrete replacements too along the Butler Street side of it. So really good progress this week. And then jumping over after that, well, our focus is going to be primarily on City Hall landscaping. So we're aware it doesn't look the best at the moment, but we still got to get some irrigation installed, and then we have a plan for plantings. So
Fantastic. Any questions for our superintendent?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Baldwin. Welcome, Scott. Francis and Holland, with the construction that's going on there, we've lost a pretty major sidewalk. I wonder if the city can work with the contractor to maybe put some signs up to say there's another way they can get downtown, because I've seen people walk around the construction site and it's not the best situation. So it'd be really great to have some kind of a sign at Spear and Holland to say sidewalk closed, go down Spear Street to get downtown, and then maybe on the other side at Butler and Francis, just to make sure that people don't walk into the construction site. I see Mr. Murphy's here too, so.
Here, Steve, but I was looking at that today, and what I'll do is only try to get the pumps that just farther down the driveway and kind of clean that up, and I'd be happy to put on some signs, And as soon as they get it framed in, I think what I'm gonna do is replace a good part of the sidewalk on the Francis side. And get that part of it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I saw it today, so.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Murphy. And I talked with the next door neighbors while Mr. Murphy's here, is that they were very complimentary of your crew. They've been very gracious and trying to do the best that they can with all the noise. So thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Anything else for superintendent? Herbert?
There's a stop sign. It's not Spear Street, but one of the other stop signs coming onto Butler Street. I'm trying to think of what street that is exactly, but I had a resident let me know that there's a tree kind of like growing over the stop sign itself. Do you know what I'm talking about?
probably Francis and Butler Street.
That's right.
That's
I had
Mimosa.
asked them to call City Hall. I don't know if you got a call today for that, but I don't know if somebody could flip something over there or.
I'd be happy to. I advised the resident a couple of years ago that wasn't a great location for a mimosa tree.
Right.
So I would be happy to go and prune that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else for Mr. Herbert? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks. Moving on to police. Any report from our police? Sergeant Haas is first. Thank you. Good evening.
Hello.
Just one thing to pass on for personnel issues. Some of you guys might know Deputy LaJoyce is going to be parting ways with us. His last day is going to be July 6th. So he's going to get us through next week and he'll be done. So we should have a replacement picked next couple of days here. So, and when we have that, we'll make sure we communicate and everything with you guys. So.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Sergeant Haas? No? Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Appreciate you. Now into our engineers report. I don't know if I have John online. We have Mr. Moxie.
I believe that's not. He's not online.
Okay. All right. So we will move on then to boards, commissions and committees. Fire District Administration Board. Mr. Fox.
Oh, Dan Fox, Council Representative of the Fire District Board. Just two, I think, two quick things. One's a piece of news that just came onto my phone. Both the township and Douglas have endorsed the budget, not to put any pressure on you later in the meeting. Also, in particular, I wanted to thank the quorum that we had from the council at the budget meeting. Appreciate that very much, especially given how warm it was in the outside and then in particular in the bay there. So, and the only other thing, I dropped those photographs on there of the Coast Guard training with both the Sheriff's Department and the Fire District Marine Unit, Sheriff's Department Marine Unit as well. There are a lot of people, I think, who wonder at the cost of maintaining that equipment, those two boats that are moored down there and whatever. And if we had our druthers, the fire district wouldn't be doing it either. But those areas out into the lake are our responsibility. And the helicopter there, in fact, comes from Traverse City. So that's, I don't know how many minutes I can give you a direct answer. And in fact, I was going to offer, I didn't want to send this and just clog up your packet or whatever, but there, with that effort, there was I think it was a 35 page explanatory PowerPoint Coast Guard put on. And they include in that the travel time from Traverse roughly to here, Traverse to the others like Manitowoc, Traverse up to where Superior and Michigan come together, and then Traverse all the way over to Duluth, all of which come out of Traverse City for helicopter support. That I found I didn't get into detail, but any of you who want it, let me know. I'll happily send you the PowerPoint. There's a great deal of detail, and they're mostly, pictures of the kind of resources that are inside the helicopter and what they can do and what have you. I know the chief and the guys involved were thrilled. I mean, I don't know if I think that picture shows the basket being lowered, their guys being lowered and whatever. You can't learn that on the go. You better know, because it's probably not going to be a pretty day like that or whatever, when somebody has a heart attack out there, some boat, whatever. So anyway, those are the two things. I'll hang around until you guys talk on the budget.
Thank you.
Thanks
Any
again.
questions now for Mr. Fox? Okay, thank you very much. Move on to interurban, Mr. Muncy.
We are proud to say our ridership at interurban is a 14.81% increase in ridership. It's compared to last May's ridership. We carried 5,307 passengers. This May, we carried 6,993, and that's a 786 passenger increase for the month of May. So people are in town, they're using the interurban, and we're really there. We're right there close to our pre-COVID numbers back again. Capital grant progress. I want to let you guys know that propane conversion kits are in. We've got 2 new ones. We're turning 2 of our buses into propane as we are continuing to possibly make the whole fleet propane. It's cheaper, it's cleaner, and it's our own access. We have our own tank that we built and the big concrete base there. Our drivers are trained to fuel their own buses, and I think it's just a great thing there. So we've got 2 of those, and then we've got the good news about the building project. We don't have to have an archaeology dig. So we ran it,
Excellent
remember the
news.
bathrooms there. So we can go ahead and go forward with our expansion of the building there. Becky drove Saugatuck Township officials. Mr. Capica just spoke about that for a tour of Lake Shores Drive's dune erosion to show the importance to our legislation, the support and show support for the money that we need to stop that from happening. So she shuttled them around. She did a couple of events in town as well. We've added a 5th bus to the schedule during peak times. And starting in July, we'll be adding a 6th bus for the first time during our peak seasons to cover the demand. And this way we'll get those shorter response times. Also, we had a great ceremony for Marie Muha, who served with our board for almost 40 years. She left the planet, but left a great mark with the Interurban. And we had a garden dedication there where we had built a bench in her honor, as well as little flowers, and especially some flowers that she really enjoyed. And so there's a little bench area and relaxation area there in front of Interurban. We've also our shuttle service started in May, back for the
School.
FBA, the farmer's market. And we also have a free shuttle that continues for music in the park from 7 to 9. People can park over at the high school, take a shuttle down, and it's only $1. And yeah, everything's going great. Our budget's going great, and we're pleased to have Becky as our new director.
Wonderful, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Muncy?
Just to comment, the new signage for the shuttle is really good. So
Thank you.
compliments to whoever came up with the
Thank
new
you, thank you.
signage. It's really good.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
Really catches your eye.
Mhm.
Okay. Cal Lake Sewer and Water Authority, I believe we have Mr. Johnson tonight.
Good evening.
Hello.
Let's see. So we had a meeting on the 17th of June, and just basic things. We've started our sampling for the lead and copper rule, started on June 1st. Everything we've seen so far is within criteria. We posted our 2003 water quality report on our website, and I think they sent it to you guys to put on your website as well. Yep. So just the normal kind of business there. We had a workshop about the water agreement on June 19th. Ryan attended, and it was good to have a constituent municipality represented. And went through the draft we had. We made some more notes to include that the authority will own, which will include the new water wells, water storage tank, and the 2 river crossings, as well as provisions for billing of a constituent municipality's local rates. So as you know, the township and Douglas added their own rate to the bills that come out every month to pay for infrastructure. And I know you guys are talking about it too. But in our new agreement, we'll have the mechanism for us then to collect those for the municipalities and send them back to you for your accounts for your infrastructure. And we expect to have not the final form, but a near final form of the agreement by the meeting on July 15th.
Wonderful.
Any questions?
Yeah, good evening, Barry. So the agreement, so it's going to be, the draft will be right around the middle of July. When do the municipalities have to actually sign off on it, or what's the expectation?
Well, it'll all come back for you guys to ratify, so.
Okay,
Depends what happens on the 15th, I guess,
okay,
We may be pretty close, and we may wrap it up and send it back to you guys for the final thing. And we did do a lot of referencing back and forth to the Baker Tilly studies that you guys did, so we're trying to incorporate all that together and get this thing put together. Then after that, we do the sewer agreement.
Yeah.
So,
the reason I ask is in years past, we've had a subcommittee of the council working with the city manager and relying on you and Mr. Beckon at this point as representatives. So I'd like to suggest that we maybe think about that as a council, because this is a pretty important agreement for the city, and it puts a lot of responsibility on the city manager to go through all of that and, tap into some of the expertise in the council to maybe think about having some representation from the council in those conversations.
Yeah, and
The more that we can know about it, because it's very complex.
Douglas and the township, I think, have subcommittees
Yeah.
for water agreement too, so it
Yeah.
would make sense if you
I think
guys
it's
had a
prudent for
couple
the-
people.
I think it's prudent for us to do the same.
Yeah, and then if 2 of you showed up at a meeting, it wouldn't be a quorum. So,
You happen to put my name in the hat for that. I've had a little bit of experience with it, so.
Anyone else with questions for Mr. Johnson? No?
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Barry.
Moving on now to Kalamazoo Lake Harbor Authority, Mr. White. Excellent. ZBA, I don't believe,
They did not have a meeting this month.
okay. Historic District of Mr. Gardner.
Yeah, our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, July 10th. It's a Wednesday, not a Thursday. So for those of you that would like to come, it's a wonderful meeting. Please show up Wednesday, July 10th at 6 p.m.
Okay. Planning from Ms. Anderson.
Yes, planning met on Thursday evening. And the focus of the discussion was, whether to recommend to council a cap on short-term rental licenses in the residential neighborhoods. We had great participation from the community, both favoring a cap and not favoring a cap. So appreciated the dialogue. And planning did take a vote to recommend a 20% cap on the district for the Hill, for Maple Street and for Peninsula West.
It's the R1.
Or,
district.
yeah, R1, yes, R1 districts. So that it's kind of then working its way through the process. I know city manager and our legal counsel will kind of figure out the best way to approach that and then bring it to council. I assume.
Yeah, I know it's on a lot of folks' mind. I have received some inquiries today, so yeah, today I met with our consulting planner and Mr. Whitty to kind of discuss the planning commission's recommendation and next steps. So anticipate having a kind of a comprehensive memo prepared for you for your workshop meeting next week to have some further discussion.
Excellent. Please, Russ.
Yeah, question. What was the vote on the,
It was 4-3, which, kind of mirrors, I think, when you look at the resident survey from last year, it was 60% in favor of a residential, 40 against. So it's it seems like it's kind of playing out that way. But both Mr. Lachey and Mr. Mans favor a residential cap, but had some issue with how this one was constructed. And then Mr. Badrick was a solid no.
Anyone else? No? Thank you very much.
thank you.
Parks and Public Works, we meet tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. All are welcome. We can move on to Tri-Community Non-Motorized Trail Study Committee. That's a lot for Blue Star.
Yeah, nothing to report that wasn't already in the manager's previous report.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to request for payment, accounts payable,
I will make a
page
motion.
57.
I will make a motion to pay the accounts payable in the amount of $101,441.04.
Second.
Motion Gardner, second Anderson, all in favor. Oh, it's a roll call. I'm sorry.
Anderson?
I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Please
Sorry,
comment.
discussion. I
Oh,
skipped.
sorry.
I apologize. Please, Russ.
Yeah, I met with Chief Janik. So anyway, there's a point here. So I met with Chief Janik last Friday up at Pleasant Street and we were talking about different things, but he did mention that the painting at the end of Butler Street, he had mentioned that the painting hadn't been completed on the stripes down there. So I hadn't had a chance to connect with Ryan to give that feedback. So from his perspective, there's an issue down there. So it needs to be, because that's an emergency turnaround and so forth. And they've run into some issues.
Down at the end here.
The end of Butler Street,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, so.
Okay.
I just know when I saw the street line painting, it reminded me of that conversation, so.
All right, we can check on that.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that. Any other questions on the AP? No? Can we get a roll call?
Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Baldwin?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes,
Muncy?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so we have no introduction of ordinances, line item 12, no unfinished business, line item 13. That moves us to new business 14A, resolution 24624-A, budget amendments for fiscal year 2023-2024 on page 59. And I will let the manager tee us up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. So at your workshop meeting, the city treasurer kind of went through each of the budget amendments in detail with you, just kind of repeat a few highlights here and I'll turn it over to you for any questions or motion. Our permit fees, interest earned and Oval Beach fee revenues are all up significantly. Certainly you did increase your Oval Beach fee fees, interest earned, obviously interest rates are great right now, and we also have some healthy fund balances where those funds are being invested in accordance with your investment policy. So there's some good interest coming in on those, and then permit fees are up from really a decision to review and update your fee schedule. It's related to primarily to planning and zoning fees. Legal fees, I know is certainly a topic that's out there. Those have come in lower than budgeted, which is good. The approved budget anticipates you approved last year's budget, you anticipating using some general fund balance, some savings or cash reserves. Instead, this budget anticipates kind of flipping that. We're not going to have to use any cash reserves. In fact, we anticipate that we're going to have some that we're actually going to put towards savings. So we're going to increase that savings amount. That's on the general fund budget. On the local streets fund, we were anticipating, or you budgeted to use some of that fund balance, which, you know, is a healthy fund balance. We could always use more, especially for streets, but there's funds in there available. So good news is we're actually going to be using less of that fund balance. But just as a reminder, you got a lot of work done this past year from use of those funds. You know, we finished East West Tack and Taylor, did the work on Bridge Street in partnership with the township and them helping us with some of that cost. And then Scott was really, aggressive with some mill and fill asphalt repairs in other areas of the city that really needed it. So some good road work was done using those dollars. So that's just the highlights, but happy to answer any questions if you have.
Well, I know we went into detail on this on our budget meeting, but at first I think I should get a motion to approve.
Yeah, how do you want this motion? Mayor, do you want just number one, like, and as presented? So we could try this,
Okay.
There's and
There's a sample motion right on your.
59?
Yep. A little bit higher.
I don't.
I'll go ahead.
I don't-
I'll make
you-
a
you try
motion
it
to
then.
approve resolution number 240624-A to amend the budget of the 2023-2024 General Appropriations Act.
I'll second it.
Got a motion on the table. Any questions for, and again, I know we went into this in detail at our workshop, but if there's any further questions for the manager?
I just want to say that I'm happy, and I think everybody should be happy that the legal fees came in lower than budgeted. And then that that we don't have to dip into our general fund. So those are great things, and let's keep thinking that way.
Well, not only did we not dip into them, we added to them. So
Right.
it was a great story.
Okay.
What was Peter's kind of back of the envelope projection of 300K surplus?
Yep.
With this amendment?
Around 300.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay. With that, I think this is a roll call.
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, that takes us to 14B, Fire Department Budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 on page 74 of your packets. And if you wouldn't mind teeing us up on this again, Mr. Manager?
Certainly, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. So as was noted during your fire district reports, the fire district held a joint kind of briefing and public hearing on their proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25. They went, through their slides in detail and answered any questions folks had. A copy of their full presentation is in your meeting packet, and fire district has asked each municipality to approve moving forward with their budget.
If I can get a motion to approve the fire budget, we can. open
Yeah,
up for-
I'll try it again. Motion to approve the fire department budget for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Second.
Motion Dean, second Muncy. Any questions?
Yeah, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, no question, just a comment. I was at the budget presentation, and again, I thank Chief Janik, thank Dan Fox, Jane Verplank, our other city representative, and the rest of the board. They just do a fantastic job out there, and they're very careful with their money too. There was an example of a unit that they just recently purchased from, I think it was West Virginia, that the chief was very proud of in terms of the value of that, as well as the ability to put a cover on it to make it fit our colors, et cetera. So just, they're really careful with the money that they have to spend, and they do a fantastic job, and they just couldn't, from my experience, they just couldn't do a better job with just changing with the environment. And the thing that I noted about the presentation that was made is the reduction in the number of structure fires is what, I think 23 or maybe 32%, I forget the exact number. So the mission of this fire department and many others are changing. It's no longer about structure fires. It's more about medical calls and assistance at, in our case, out on the highway, which they've actually got another piece of equipment, asset coming to actually make our highway safer when there's out there for an emergency. It's a challenge. It's a real challenge to react to the market. And I just really give a lot of credit to everybody that works out there to have the vision to keep us safe as well as changing with the times. So appreciate it.
Any other questions on the budget before we vote? No? Okay, with that, I believe this is also a roll call.
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, new business item C, engagement of Plant Moran for financial consulting services, page 95 of your packets. And Mr. Manager can lead us.
All right. Yes, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, as you discussed at your workshop meeting last week, our city treasurer, unfortunately, is no longer with us, but our city clerk.
Employment, he's not dead.
Yes, yes. I mean, I should, be careful with my words there. Yes, so. So our clerk and deputy clerk are doing a great job and helping out with the more traditional treasurer related duties, and Peter provided them with a lot of training before moving on to another community. But the more accounting related duties, audit prep, those types of things are things that I'm recommending that we engage with the firm Plant Moran to assist us during this time of transition. Plant Moran will offer both on-site, have some on-site time as well as remote assistance and support. They're also available, as much or as little as needed, and as needed going forward. So certainly they're going to help us during this transitional period, but as we look at hiring an additional, a new city treasurer and finance officer, depending on that person's skill set, Plant Moran can still help support them for a period of time. They also have some training programs, and we can kind of also have them available if we run into a particular situation that we're really unsure about. So they come very highly recommended from both the city and village of Douglas, who's recently used them for doing a similar transition, as well as the city of Fenville, who also use Plant Moran services.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
Yes, Mayor, make a motion to approve the engagement letter and the accompanying professional services agreement with Plant Moran PLLC.
Second.
Motion Anderson, second White.
That was.
Was it-
Dean or Muncy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was White. He
thought it was
right
White.
before me. I just allowed it.
White,
Sure.
you have
I heard White.
White, all right, White, I'll tell you.
I heard White.
All right. Any questions for the manager?
Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
So, one thing I thought about after the workshop was whether it would make sense actually to go with a blended rate versus the individual rates. As it's only $10 more than the higher of the two rates that will be doing the work. And it's my thinking being that we could get I think their partner rate is $450 an hour. We could get some senior level consulting to kind of just take a look at the function, what other municipalities are doing. It's as we're kind of resetting some of our staff with a new city manager. We'll have a new planning director and a new treasurer. Does it make sense to step back and say, what could we be doing? Running the math, it's probably would be about a wash. I mean, assume 6 months of sort of the accounting work. I don't know that we would get a lot of value, but I do think it's worth our city manager thinking about whether we do want to retain some, whatever number of hours to get some of that thinking as we bring somebody new and approach a new fiscal year. So more just a comment, but I think we might well benefit from that kind of
Mr. Gardner?
advice. Yeah, thank you. And I want to comment that Plant Moran's well placed in this space. They've done a lot of different work across the state and in the Great Lakes region. As a matter of fact, Plant Moran was the city auditor at one time back when. Fully support Plant Moran being engaged. I think to Councilmember Anderson's point, I think that's a great idea. What I would suggest is that we let this kind of play itself out. They will by nature start to just have conversations and suggest things. I think a separate study to take a look at the treasurer function and city operations, I think would be a separate engagement, in my opinion. That's typically how that's handled. I think we'll get some natural improvements out of this, just as they refamiliarize themselves with city operations. I support the $175 flat rate. Well, I actually support the flat rate structure.
95.
Yeah, excuse me. I support the flat rate structure that was proposed.
Any other opinions or questions on the flat rate structure versus a blended rate structure?
I support the flat rate structure. I
Yeah.
like the idea of having, you know, having that backup if we need it, and, you know, we might need it. I think.
You're
that's
saying
a-
blended or flat?
Pardon?
Are you saying blended or flat?
The what?
Are you saying the blended rate structure or the flat rate structure?
The flat rate. I'm sorry, not blended, flat rate.
And to be,
195.
and to
That's
be
the
clear,
blended. The 195 is the blended, Gregory. I'm sorry.
Isn't that the flat rate?
No,
No.
the flat rate is the individual.
Oh, that's
line
right.
items.
No, the blended. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
I'm sorry. about
okay,
that.
I mean, that's really kind of where we're hanging up on this is, I mean, I think we all agree that Plant Moran is the consultant that we need to hire. So now we need to talk about
I'm for the blended rate.
the blended rate.
Yeah.
Okay. And Ms. Anderson, you're advocating for the.
you know,
blended
so
rate?
actually
I
the,
was thinking that meant flat rate.
I
You
understand,
where
of
I'm coming
course,
from.
yeah, that's why I was.
But I think
parsing
the
it.
blended rate is great. It gives us the option of having senior help if we need it.
so part of it is just the math working out. So what I did was took the 4 municipalities that were in here, took the number, averaged the hours they spent, but for 6 months versus a year, and then calculated that with the 2 flat rates and then the blended rate, and then assumed we had, I think it was 15 partner hours and maybe 15 manager hours. And it was almost even what it came out to. So unless we think that this engagement for the accounting work will go longer, we probably wouldn't save anything with a flat rate, but it does, or with a blended rate, but it does give us the option later, or if we do decide to do more strategic work with them to get a better rate. So I mean, given that, I'm fine if we go with the flat rates, but if we look to a longer term engagement, we would save a decent amount of money.
The blended rate is only $25 more an hour.
Mhm.
And when you see that between senior rate, manager and partner rates, it just makes sense to me.
I kind of land on the idea that if we don't do the blended rate, that a lot of that winds up falling on staff when they wind up having questions on that. So it kind of makes sense to me also to go with the blended rate. I've changed my opinion from when we were at the workshop. I was like, oh, we can get them for 170 and we should do that. And I'm migrating toward thinking that the blended rate of 195, but I'd be curious to know Mr. White and Mr. Dean's
Well,
thoughts.
I'd like to ask the manager, I mean, with Peter's departure, what have you and staff identified in terms of need so far with him being gone? Do you think you would capture more value through the blended or the flat? I mean, I hate to put you on the spot, but I think you're closer to it than all of us.
Yeah, and I think we're still kind of still getting into it, frankly. I mean, certainly we have, year-end work that's approaching quickly. And, it's always good to have, fresh set of eyes on things and fresh advice and perspective and ways to improve. I mean, Peter did a great job, but Jamie and Sarah have identified, hey, maybe we can improve this or that on the treasurer side of things. So I anticipate on the accounting side, certainly, we always want to get better, right? Plant Miranda indicated that, their accounting consultant at 170 and their senior accounting consultant at 185 are going to certainly do the vast majority of the work, 95% of it. Maybe there's that 5% of the time when they need the manager or the partner at 250 or 475, but it would be fairly minimal, but you just never know though, right? And so I kind of like the idea of protecting our downside, but
Okay, no, that helps. So, I mean, it sounds like you sort of like the idea of the blended because there's more optionality if you do feel like you really want to take a deep dive with a partner or something.
I don't know that they're gonna make the partner always available to me for whatever is needed. But
The manager's where it's at, the manager.
Manager could be certainly
With a
where
public
it's
accounting
at, or,
background, I can tell you that
yeah.
that's where it would
Okay.
come in handy. The manager would have a beefier presence if there were any kind of issues or recommendations. The partner ultimately does the sign off, but the manager's where like we would wind up hitting that a little bit harder if it were needed. Mr. White, do you have any?
I would defer to the city manager. I'm
Okay.
excited we're engaging with Plant Moran, but I don't know. I'm not close enough to accounting to know the advantages of a flat versus a blended rate with the scale of the work that we're doing.
Ms.
I,
Anderson?
you know, when I worked professionally, I worked for a consulting firm and we had a number of clients who used blended rates. And I will say that they did get more
Mhm.
work from more senior level people than those who didn't, just because they knew they were getting a good deal and would ask. Now, granted, they wouldn't always get what they asked for, but they definitely got a higher level staffing than clients who didn't. But again, you have to use it enough
Yeah.
to get it. But it is on average, when you have average, it's just 170 and the 185. You know, it's a big discount.
With Ryan being new in his position and somebody that we've had for so long, you know, stepping down, I want to give him every possible tool that we have. And I think this does that for him.
I think it's very obvious here that we're leaning toward the 195 blended rate. Do we need to amend our motion, or is the motion okay as it stands since it's pretty open?
Probably cleanest to amend the motion and designate that you want the blended rates and
Okay.
make it the most
Who made-
clear, so.
Who made the original motion? I'm sorry. Does it matter?
Ah,
Anderson.
okay. I would like to amend my motion to engage or to approve the engagement letter and the accompanying professional service agreement with Plant and Moran PLLC, using the option of a blended rate.
Second White, motion Anderson, second White. We're ready to vote on this? Okay. Is that a roll call?
Yes, it is. Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right. That takes us to new business item D, temporary wayfinding signage request on page 105.
Madam Mayor, Pro Tem, is another item that was discussed at your workshop meeting. Kind of had a combination discussion related to this particular request, as well as kind of a larger discussion about wayfinding and city signage and branding. So, you know, a larger review and discussion will probably be something that maybe we look at as we get into the fall and winter. But this particular request before you is to place this signage here that's kind of in front of you on the corner of Butler and Main to help let folks know there's additional shopping opportunities along Water Street. I did talk to the owner who has proposed this, and he had indicated that originally he was thinking, you know, magnets and that sort of thing, identifying businesses. He said it would be too cluttered. You know, he kind of agreed with some of your sentiments, and so wants to keep it a nice, clean look and keep it very similar to this.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the request from Cellar Door Trades to place temporary wayfinding signage consistent with the submitted sample. Approval is based on the following conditions. The sandwich board shall not obstruct the general flow of pedestrian traffic or cause a vision obstruction. The sign shall not be displayed between the hours of between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. No names, logos, or other features specific to any business shall be displayed, and that the city reserves the right to withdraw this authorization at any time.
Second.
Motion Muncy, second Gardner. Any discussion?
Yeah, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, will repeat the comment I made at the meeting on Wednesday at the workshop. I said, this is great. What impressed me most about this was the ability of the city staff and city council to pivot so quickly on an issue that was brought to our attention. It gives me confidence and hope that other citizens who make comment and or request action will get the same level of respect and prompt action.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that too. And I appreciate the prompt action by council on this as well. And I appreciate that the conversation that it started with us at our workshop, which is something that we're gonna add to our strategic planning meeting this winter, which I think is a great idea, is about wayfinding. And when I served with Sadava, the Business Association, we did do signs like that, directional signs like that we put out per permit. But we do need to rethink and reevaluate our wayfinding signage throughout our town so that folks can easily find the attractions and great places.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other comments before we move on? Okay, I think that this is a voice vote. So all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Like motion carries. Moving on. Oh, any opposed? I didn't hear it. I heard yeses from everybody. I'm sorry. All right. Motion carries. 14E, hardscaping installation request, Wicks Park Bar and Grill, page 107 of your packets.
Mayor Protem, you reviewed this at your workshop meeting as well. Request from Wicks Park Bar and Grill to place either concrete or pavers within the city right of way between the sidewalk and the street. This relates to the request to have outdoor dining along Mary Street, and the zoning ordinance requires that seating be on a solid surface, and that was a condition of their approval by the planning commission. And so you discussed concrete versus pavers at your workshop meeting, and there's varying thoughts on that at the workshop meeting, and then it's before you tonight for an ultimate decision. I did put 2 sample motions before you, depending on whether or not you have a desire to go with concrete or pavers based on the discussion that you did have at your workshop. One particular item of importance here as it relates to this is that since your workshop meeting, I was notified on late Thursday that the Wicks Park went ahead and installed pavers between the sidewalk and the street without your final approval and decision. And then they also had placed seating between the sidewalk and street as well without an executed revocable license agreement which is also a condition of their approval by the planning commission and your zoning ordinance. And so I had reached out to the business owner on Thursday evening and didn't hear back at all. Since then, I did issue 2 civil infraction notices to the business owner this morning related to those 2 violations, and mailed those as well as emailed those to the business owner.
Thank you. Do we need to get a motion for further discussion first, or?
Yeah, it's probably best to put a motion on the table and discuss it, and then you can work from there.
At this point, I will entertain a motion regarding approval or denial of the request from Wicks Park Bar and Grill to install
I'm
hardscape.
gonna go ahead and make a motion to approve the request from Wicks Park Bar and Grill to install concrete pavers between the sidewalk and curb along Mary Street, subject to the following conditions: that pavers shall meet engineer and Department of Public Works requirements and specifications.
Well, I'll second it so we can have the discussion.
Well, I'm happy to lead the discussion if I don't hear from
Talked
anybody
about
else.
this before.
So we talked,
And you guys know that, I was on board with the concrete. I went ahead and followed the motion. I didn't drive by there. I haven't seen that. I'm not happy about that, but I'm gonna go ahead and approve what they think that they're doing. Now, we talked about pavers, and I know, we talked about, issues of, green spaces and having green spaces. I felt it was such a small area that, to me personally, I didn't think it was that big of an area. But then I also understood Council Dean's suggestion about, the flooding, everything being concrete and not being able to have proper irrigation. I remember Councilman Dean saying that pavers would be a good happy medium there. And I remember Christine at the meeting saying that she would be happy doing pavers there as well.
so if I may, the
Mhm.
issue isn't so much about that, and clearly from our discussion, it looked as though possibly we'd be looking to approve pavers, but even approving pavers would have to meet engineering and Department of Public Works requirements and specifications. So I think
Right.
that the issue that's before us now is we know that the business owner has broken the rules. And what are we as a council going to do about it?
Mhm.
Well,
One thing that I did ask is that our superintendent have a look at it and see if what's out there now already does meet specifications. And if you wouldn't mind addressing us at this time, hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at this big picture. I'm not particularly picking on any one person, but when we had our capital improvements discussion earlier this spring, I think Councilmember Gardner brought up a good point, which was highlighting sidewalks and how can we incorporate sidewalk replacements and upgrades, which is, I kind of lump this in the same category, onto our capital improvements plan better. And then so in combination of that, maybe, under the Parks and Public Works Committee's purview would be, streetscaping. And so hopefully we can develop some sort of a plan for this and plan to it and get some feedback from Parks and Public Works on what that might look like specifically. But keeping it simple, the city's looked at some areas in between the sidewalk and the street in the past, and Mary Street in particular has a lot of sidewalk issues. Like on the north side of the road, something has happened. Either the sidewalk was built very low or it's settled over time due to ground saturation. I'm not really sure, but there's a huge hump in the green space in between the sidewalk and the street. And so in my mind, Mary Street concrete, once we do get it on the capital improvements plan, is probably one of the first ones on the list. For us to take a deeper dive into what an upgrade might look like. Typically, we do those types of things when we do a street project, but it's going to be a while before Mary Street's due for a street project. So I guess related to maintenance and upgrades in that small strip of grass from a maintenance standpoint, it's much nicer if we get consistency. And so I'm more in favor. I totally think that the green space is important. It's very important. But from a simplicity sake, maintenance perspective, I would have a preference for concrete being poured. But at the same time, that way too, like the work that was done right now, some issues that I see are no offense to anybody, but people get out of their cars and they enter the sidewalk from the side. And right now there's a good lip where the brick pavers meet the edge of the sidewalk concrete. And so had it been poured with concrete, or if it would have been installed better, frankly, no offense, you could have minimized the trip hazard. We do get complaints about people falling in that section. But by pouring it with concrete, you have more control over settling of the individual pavers. But also too, you can just flatline it straight from the top of the sidewalk to the back of the curb. And so it makes a nice gradual slope. So that's our preference just from a maintenance perspective.
Are you saying, I'm sorry, so you're saying the brick pavers were not properly, brick pavers should not be above a curb, you're saying?
Oh, they're
that the
below,
pavers
they're,
are not- oh,
they're,
below.
yep. So it's a little wavy. And so that's another concern with brick pavers is,
And they're brand new
if they're not
installed.
compacted properly, they do settle over time. And if you're already starting off with an uneven surface, then it's likely only to get worse over time. It's a lot more controllable with just poured concrete, but also too, we want to make sure that we have sufficient, tree cutouts for tree roots and whatnot and replacements. And so, in a perfect world, you would do it somewhat spaced evenly and kind of consistent throughout the city and not just kind of the way it is.
I think it's certainly possible to get you look at any cityscape, you go to Holland, Grand Rapids, wherever, and there's so many examples of there's a sidewalk and then brick pavers that go around trees and that between that and the curb just to break it up so it doesn't, there's drainage that way. And B, it's not just like this concrete jungle. You've got something else to look at besides it. So it's certainly possible to get brick pavers installed correctly. I haven't seen the brick pavers up close. You're saying that is not a good installation technique.
They're not level.
Okay, that's not a good installation technique on brick pavers.
I'll say the pavers here by the information booth are doing very well.
They are, and over by the wine cellar, those have been there for forever. Who knows how long this has been there, but
Originally, I thought concrete too, because it was I thought it was a safer, flatter surface and people getting out of the car. Again, this is a very small area. It's not a big area. I'm all for green spots too.
the bread, you know, over at Jones Park, and this is true over off of Mary Street, there's a honey locust tree, and those kinds of trees are notorious for, we have it at Jones Park right now. I want to start working on that, but the tree roots are pushing up all the bricks over there. And so there's at least one honey locust that over in that area too. So eventually that's going to mess up the pavers even more so. It's a lot easier for Public Works to go in once there is an uneven surface and there's a trip hazard to go in and just pour a concrete. So.
Please.
Apart from the concrete versus pavers, I'm quite irked that the owner went ahead and went ahead and installed something without having approval from the city. I mean, like, what the heck?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of doing something and then ask for forgiveness later either. So,
Scott.
thanks, Scott.
Thanks,
You know,
Scott.
we had somebody build something that was unapproved on city property, right? There should be consequences for that. I wish Mr. Moxie was here, because last Wednesday I was keen on, this line on 107. The city's engineer's preference is that pavers be installed to allow for some stormwater infiltration. And in my day job, the State Environment Agency, we recommend statewide that municipalities undertake projects that slow water flows down, stormwater flows to protect our watersheds. So I'm quite passionate about finding ways to slow down stormwater, because we are losing areas that can absorb stormwater just due to development.
If I may ask one question,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, of our superintendent. Did the brick pavers appear to be permeable, and were there the appropriate cutouts around the trees? I didn't ask you that while you're up.
Yeah, the cutouts around the trees, they were sufficient size. They weren't exactly like symmetrical in relation to the location of the trees, but it seemed like maybe there was like a grout type of material installed in between the pavers. And so to me, that did not look porous at all. It looks pretty
As I
much.
passed by it, I agree with that.
Yeah, that was my impression.
Observation.
It looked, grout, it probably wasn't grout, but it was something grout-like between, so the water's not gonna, it might get into the cracks, but
So it's not a traditional. paver.
No, it's not traditional
No.
pavers that way.
So we have a couple issues here, I guess, if we try to put this into buckets. We had a violation of our ordinance, and frankly, it was flagrant because the applicant was before us on Wednesday. And we had this discussion. And so, yeah, I am disappointed as well that someone flouted our ordinance and thinks they're going to get forgiveness after the fact. I just find that unfair to the rest of the residents to think that you can do that and to create that kind of precedent where you act and then ask for forgiveness later. The second bucket, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Gardner, is I do wish we had a more coherent plan around how we handle these spaces. After our Wednesday workshop, just walking down Butler Street, this issue has been tackled with concrete, it's been tackled with pavers, it's been tackled with loose gravel, it's been tackled with dirt. So there is no continuity to my knowledge. And Scott, you're nodding, so. I think-
100%. Yeah, it's hard to maintain, and then you get into an issue too, if there is an issue.
Yeah.
And then the city goes and makes an improvement. Is it fair that we're doing like exposed aggregate in front of one store versus concrete in front of another? It puts us in a tough position.
And the lack of consistency, not only just, in terms of ordinances and in terms of trying to, manage stormwater runoff, it just doesn't look good. Douglas has done a wonderful job on their main thoroughfare with landscaping. They've done a really nice job. I compliment them on it, so I think that's the other bucket we need to be looking at, but it's for this council to decide how you want to handle this violation of our ordinance by someone who was at our meeting, or at least was dialed into our meeting on Wednesday.
Mr. Gardner?
Yeah, thank you. The quality of the installation aside, as Councilmember Anderson said, my thought process on this, I think, aligns with hers, and that's we had a meeting where we discussed options, and the owner assumed that meant that they could move forward with what was going to be on our agenda on Monday. And that is in direct violation of the city ordinances. So I think about the hardware building and all of the work that went into that mural and the grief that everybody went through. And then they actually had to remove the mural because they did not follow the city process. Create a lot of anxiety in the community. And I think if this is passed, I think we will have some issues. People come back and say, why are you treating this differently than you treated me? I don't know if that to be the case or not, but I just draw a parallel in that situation where the city took a hard line on, you didn't follow the process, and here's the result. It's the same situation in my mind here. Here was the situation that we're put in, and here's the consequence of that action. That doesn't mean that this applicant can't come back at some future point and ask for these actions. At this point, I just don't see where this can move ahead, given the situation.
Mayor.
Please.
or Pro
Pro
Tem.
Tem, make Lorna mad.
I'd like to withdraw my motion.
So at this point, are we going to make a motion to deny or do we table it?
We can't table, can we? Or-
We'd have to come back.
I will make a motion to deny the application as presented.
Second,
Any further discussion?
Well, so were we able to withdraw that motion? I mean,
Motion was
do we,
withdrawn.
do we have two that we need to, oh, it's.
Gregory withdrew the motion. He made the motion. He
I
withdrew it.
withdraw.
Okay,
my motion.
yeah, yeah, okay, good, sorry.
Yeah.
Go on.
I would just like to say that this has put us in a very awkward position. Wasn't a result of anything that the council did. So I don't make these kinds of motions without a lot of thought. And I've had a conversation today with the Mayor Pro Tem about kind of where we were with on this. And it's difficult, but I think it's the right thing.
I was real quick, I was struck by surprise. I hadn't seen that they had started anything and I hadn't looked at it. I am disappointed. I was trying to find a happy medium. Hopefully that, you know, that was being installed. And maybe we could hopefully work with them through this. But it is a sign of defiance. It doesn't mean that the applicant can't come back and bring something back to us. It just means we need to look at this again.
yeah, I mean, we have to enforce our ordinances or change them. I mean, you know. And be consistent. I mean, I think Mr. Gardner made a great point
And I
about
think
the
the point that Mr. Gardner made about the painting, you know, those being very similar, I think that makes a good point.
Yeah, so do we have to ask the applicant to return the property, the city's right of way to its original state? Obviously, removal of.
I was gonna
I've
ask
just want to
I was gonna ask
clarify.
the manager if he has what he needs, under police powers, under our ordinances to do what needs to be done.
Yeah, if you deny this, then I mean, you know, the applicant signed the application and part of that attestation is you're gonna follow our rules and laws and repair damage done and, you know, return it to its proper state. So I think we have, you know, sufficient language in our ordinances to make sure
Okay.
that it's returned to its previous
So-
condition.
I just wanted to chime in my 2 cents is that I do agree with Mr. Dean that we need to have some kind of, I guess, policy strong because you don't want, you still want to have some flexibility with how you're going to look at things. I was very much in favor of allowing the applicant to put in brick pavers. I thought that it solved both things. I want her to have that outdoor dining. I think it's an asset to the community. I think that people like it, that people want it. I very much want our businesses to be successful. I think that brick pavers there would be very nice and there's a million, there's just a million ways that you can do it and have it look really great, but they, at a minimum, they have to be level and they have to have spaces between them that the water can go through. And they have to be at a minimum approved by our engineers and our public departments. So we didn't go through that. I mean, it is hard and I do understand that, you know, you have 100 days to make your money and that, but there was also time before this to get this application in. And so certainly no, you know, ill will toward Wicks Park. It's a great place, does a great service. I would just like them to come back and do it the right way and let us approve that and get that done in the right way. So
Yeah,
that's what I would ask.
I'm 100% with you, Mayor Pro Tem. I mean, you know, I think everyone on this council supports our business community. They appreciate innovative ideas. They appreciate, you know, bringing people here and to enjoy the beauty of our community and this great small town charm. But if we have ordinances, we need to enforce them. So that's the hard line here.
It was hard for me to withdraw my motion because I love Wicks Park. I love the food. I love the music. I love the folks. I love the owners. I love the family.
Yep.
But we do need to stand tight with our ordinances, so.
With that, I think we're ready to vote.
Yes.
Voice vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Motion carries. New business item F, consideration of a 6:30 start time for regular city council meetings on page 113 of your packets.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, couple of work sessions ago, this was a item for discussion. There was concerns raised about the, well, let me back up a little bit. So this was discussed in early 2023. And at that time, there was some kind of surveys that were requested and you can see the survey results in my memo that kind of split across the times. Majority of folks that took the survey would be fine with an earlier start time, but then there was, 41% that were fine with a 7 PM start time. There was a scheduling conflict with one council member's work scheduled. So at that time, no changes were made, and some similar concerns came up during your recent discussion, although there was some discussion that 6:30 may work for everyone. So just bringing this before you to ultimately discuss further if you want, or make a decision. Totally respect the council's decision, so.
I'll entertain a motion to get the conversation started.
I'd like to make a motion to change the start time for future city council regular meetings to 6:30 PM.
Can I get a second? Motion Anderson, second White. And we can open it up for discussion now.
I was the council member that's being mentioned, so I appreciate the respect being shown for my work schedule. Thank you. The question I still have, and I had when we had this discussion, is what problem is that we're trying to solve? And that was a question that was asked. And the response, if I recall it, was because we didn't want to inconvenience city staff. And I remember the city clerk saying that she accommodates this as part of her work. And I know the city manager obviously has to as well. I just think that the council start time at 7 PM has worked well for years. And, the survey itself, kind of bears it out. 41% still is the predominant time. I think it's about the community and what's best for the community, 7 PM.
I think, but I was happy with 6 o'clock, actually. We talked about 6, 7, because, some of these meetings, when it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, especially when we have litigation, it gets a little late. So I was happy with 6 o'clock, but I was also happy with that happy medium, finding 6:30 for folks like Russ and other folks that, have quite a commute to get back to town and, get ready for our meetings. But I'm happy with 6:30. But I would like it a little bit earlier. As I'm getting into my 50s, bedtime.
Old man.
About 8 or 9 o'clock for me. But I appreciate an earlier start time.
Mr. White, do you have comments?
No, sorry.
Okay, Mr. Dean?
Once again, I mean, I still travel to Lansing, for work, but, after COVID, we do more remote working. So my schedule is a bit more flexible. I still do commute to Lansing from time to time, but I can be flexible. I was kind of hoping that somebody would move the workshops back a little bit so it was outside of work hours, but that's a whole nother question.
Yeah, you bring that up another
That's a
time.
whole
Yeah,
nother
makes
question.
sense.
So I'm like Councilmember White. I'm agnostic on this, but,
Well, I was one of the ones who brought it up, and I will say that to me, a 6 o'clock start time. And like Mr. Muncy, I was advocating for 6 o'clock start time. I understand back in the day, there was need for a 7 o'clock. People are working yet, but you see, we've got more people online than we have in the audience, I think, right? And there's so many ways you can see it online, you can watch it recorded, you can be here in person. I just think that we do typically go very late. And I think that I was advocating for 6 o'clock. It's been 7 o'clock. I think 6:30 is a happy medium, a nice compromise. And so I'm willing to go with that if you folks are amenable.
Yeah, I'm same. You and Gregory summed up my thoughts exactly. So
I mean, I feel like I feel like Councilman Gardner, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it feels like you can make it. I mean, it's not ideal, but I mean, I would defer to my other colleagues that seem to be asking for that 30 minutes of their night back. So, or hopefully. So.
Okay. That,
I'm not going to
speak?
be a no on 6:30, just so you know.
okay.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We're
So,
all in our
and-
50s, 60s, I think.
And I do want to say that my employer fully supports my contribution to my community. So it's, they're fully aware of what I'm doing and they support what I do. So,
Wonderful. All right. With that, I think we're ready to vote.
Yeah.
Voice vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Wonderful. 6:30 it is. All right.
30 in 2 weeks.
Yeah, okay. New business item G, right-of-way signage request. This is page 115 in your packets.
Mayor.
Yes, Mr.
I'm
Muncy.
sorry, pro tem.
Pro
I can't
tem,
even
yes.
Stop it. I'd like to make a motion to approve the right-of-way sign application for the Chamber Music Festival of Saginaw.
second,
Okay, so we're gonna open that up for discussion.
One particular item, Madam Mayor, which I just wanted to point out and or see what other details, when she discussed this with me last week, and going on the agenda, the requester is requesting a feather flag sign in the right of way, and in general, those are prohibited by our ordinance. The ordinance does allow you to make exceptions and waive that particular provision. We have had a number of others who have wanted feather flag signs in general for their business, and I suspect some of them might see that and wonder why they were allowed to have that, but so I just wanted to raise that. Is that still part of their request, Jamie? Is it-
Banner sign, a small A-frame sandwich sign in front of the door on the sidewalk, and then a feather flag in the right of way in front of the door, so people are driving down the street and see people coming.
I will say that I noticed that here too, and I do not like feather flags for our city. We disallow them for a reason. They're frankly, I think that they're a little tacky. And as soon as we put one out, if you look, they're all over Douglas, they're all over the township. And I like the fact that we don't have feather flags here. I don't know why we'd make an exception in this case.
I have to apologize for that. When I saw a flag sign, I didn't realize it, a 5-foot
Feather flag, yeah.
that feather sign. So.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Please.
interrupt, but,
Go ahead.
what did we do last year about the farmer's market at the SCA? Wasn't there a feather
Oh,
flag?
that's right. They have them.
So
Or do
those
they
are-
still have?
Those are in
Those are
private
out.
property,
Ah.
inside, not on the sidewalk, advertising for you to get in there.
Okay,
We
so-
were letting the vendors put one outside each of their
Private
stalls
property.
on the private property and not on the right of way.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's the way I remember it anyway. If
All right,
that's,
Okay, that sounds correct. Yeah, it was farther back when I said.
and I don't love those either, but I understood it's a private property and, you know,
All right.
yeah, I'm in agreement with our ordinance does not allow feather flags, period, on public right of way. I think the only exception that we did was for the museum. I think about 2 years ago, I think we
That's
maybe
right,
made an
yeah.
exception for that. And that was a very specific situation, and I was supportive of that. This situation, I'm not.
okay. Can we revise the
I'll
motion?
revise and I'll amend my motion.
Well, I think you first have to withdraw, yes?
Pardon?
Does he have to withdraw the motion first?
He
and
can
then-
make a friendly amendment to his
Okay.
motion.
I'd like to make amendment to my motion to approve the right of way sign application from the Chamber Music Festival, Festival of Saugatuck, excluding the 5-foot flag sign or feather sign, but including the 2x3 A-frame and 7-foot beam.
My second remains.
Okay. Are we ready to vote? This is a voice vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, opposed? Motion carries. On to item H, Boards, Commissions, Committee Reappointments. This is item 117 in your packet. And these are, well, I'll let the manager tee it up, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so several of your board and commission members have terms that are expiring. All of them have reapply. I think we had a couple more Parks and Public Works Committee members that were still working on their application that we'll bring to you soon, but check with the mayor. She's recommending that you reappoint all these individuals to their respective boards and commissions.
Can I get a motion, please?
Mayor,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to reappoint the following. Christopher Badrak to the Planning Commission with a term ending July 1st, 2027. Bobby Gaunt to the Planning Commission with a term ending July 1st, 2027. Bob
Kubasiak.
Bashniak.
Davazia to the Zoning Board of Appeals with a term ending July 1st, 2027. Timothy Straker to the Historic District Commission with a term ending August 1st, 2027. Pete Patterson to the Historic District Commission with a term ending August 1st, 2027. Keith Chair to the Parks and Public Works Committee with a term ending August 1st, 2026. And Brian Hoffman to the Parks and Public Works Committee with a term ending August 1st, 2026.
I'll second.
Motion Muncy, second Dean. Any questions or comments before we go?
Just like to thank the citizens for their service.
Yeah, I was
Indeed.
gonna say
Here,
the
here.
same thing. Thank you to everyone here for their service, including Timothy with the Historic District Commission. I mean, I could name everyone. They've all done a great job.
Wonderful. All right, with that, we'll take a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, with that, we're gonna move on to item 15, public comments. This is on anything that you'd like to talk about. And please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Joe Leonardi, 712 Allegan. You've all heard me talk on a number of times on whatever decisions are made. I want to see consideration to make sure you're on firm legal grounds to avoid some of the pitfalls that not only this council, but past council has walked us into. And yesterday, Sunday, I had long-term residents remind me that the airport property, what we call the airport property, abuts what used to be either a township or a county dump site. This goes back a long time. Now, when you have a dump site today, you have to put barriers in there to protect soil erosion and leaching of chemicals in there. At that time, he said that was just like a burn pit where they would dump chemicals in there and burn them. So before any consideration is done of what you do with the airport property, I think you should have a professional go in there and do a soil analysis. Because you don't want to end up with another Love Canal, which would be nothing if you're doing, but it's something that could happen. So that would be something I would highly recommend.
Thank you, Mr. Leonardi.
Thank you, Joe.
Anyone else in the audience like to speak? I know we have a guest tonight. She just was not able to speak as a guest speaker. And she's introduced herself.
Good evening. I'm Irene Cook. I'm the prosecuting attorney for Allegan County, and I'm running for my third election. I have the same opponent I've had twice before and defeated twice before. Just to give you a little bit about me, I am a married mother of 4. My husband is retired Coast Guard. So what you were talking about earlier, all those trainings my husband used to do in this area. So it's interesting for me to hear that now. I've been with the prosecutor's office now for 22 years. I started as an assistant prosecutor, became chief assistant. I've been the head prosecutor now since 2018. My mantra is to do the right thing for the right reason. Sometimes that means we work with our specialty courts. Sometimes it's diversion programs for our first-time offenders, giving them the treatment and tools to make changes in their lives to be more productive in our society. And sometimes we have to take a harder approach. Unfortunately, we've had approximately 8 homicides in Allegan County since 2018. We have a 100% conviction rate on all of those. We also have had an unfortunate high number of child pornography cases, which we also have a high percentage, 100% conviction rate in those cases as well. I am a firm believer in doing the right thing for the right reason, but also being involved in my community. So I am on a plethora of boards, the Safe Schools Collaborative, working with law enforcement and school officials. I'm the vice president on Safe Harbor Children's Advocacy Center, former vice president at Sylvia's Place Domestic Violence Shelter, among a variety of other things. One of the things that I am very proud of is I've been elected by the other 82 prosecutors across the state to be one of 4 officers for the Prosecuting Attorneys Association of Michigan. What that does is give Allegan County and counties our size a voice at the state level. And I'm very proud to be in that position. I am the first female head prosecuting attorney Allegan County's ever had. And I will be moving up on the PAM board officers, and I will be the only 3rd female president that the PAM Association has had in its entirety. I think it's important to note that my opponent says some things that aren't true. I've given you some information that rebuts some of that. For example, our budget is 2.1 million. I have been under budget every year, consistently fiscally responsible. Whereas the public defender's budget in our county is 3 million minus 2.1. So there's a lot of different information out there, and I'd urge you to take a look at this. My number's on the back and you can certainly call me. I want to hit one thing. I had this thank you card given to me recently from a victim that I worked with. She was a high school student who was sexually assaulted by her swim coach. And you may have seen it in the news. What she did is she made this bracelet for me. She said that I made her feel important and I gave her the strength to get through what she needed to get through and be able to speak in court, and gave her a voice, and she felt strong enough to do that because of my help. These are the reasons I ask for your vote on August 6th. I want to continue serving the people in Allegan County and giving those a voice who cannot speak for themselves. I'm not here to ask for anything other than that. That is simply my servant's heart wanting to continue working for all of you and the citizens in Allegan County. I'm mindful of my time and I'm trying to talk fast as a attorney. It's an occupational hazard. But if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. And there's my time.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we cannot have a Q&A
Okay.
Q&A for public comment, but I do thank you for your time and speaking tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience care to speak? No? Anyone online? Seb, if you could please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I would like to thank you for voting yes on our proposal for the sign on
Sorry, Seb, could you please introduce yourself and state your address? I apologize.
Sure. So Severin Novitsky, 841 Holland Street. And I would like to thank you again for voting yes and acting very, very quickly. I was very afraid that this issue will be stuck in commissions, but you guys pushed it very, very quickly. So I'm very happy with your vote. I also was told that I showed for like 5 seconds shirtless. So I apologize about that. I didn't know my camera was on. So sorry about traumatizing you. And also the last point I would like to make in regards to the green spaces, and I wonder if it's maybe something that was discussed. I'm not sure if this was something discussed before or not, but I wonder if there's a way of individuals or group of individuals to adopt a green patch of space, let's say next to the sidewalks, where those individuals would be in charge of creating some nice to making that green space something else that it is right now, which is grass. I know Douglas does it, where volunteers are involved in planting and making a nice space over there. So I wonder if there's a way of us to create possibility of individuals to adopt a specific piece of city property and work on that space over the summer and make it nice for all of us. So thank you again for voting yes, and have a great evening. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Seb.
Anyone else online care to speak this evening? Seeing none, I'm going to close our public comment session. We have no correspondence in the packet, and now we'll move on to council comments. I think I started this way last time. I'm going to start with Ms. Anderson today.
I want to just acknowledge that our city manager is stepping down from his position on the Grand Haven City Council. I feel sad for the people of Grand Haven, and appreciate your service to them and appreciate the expertise you're bringing to us. I would imagine it was a bittersweet decision. And I think that's it. I guess a quick thanks to the fire district. I thought the presentation for their budget was really informative, and like Mr. Gardner said, really appreciate all they do for our communities.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes, thank you. I would just want to make a correction. At the June 10 council meeting, I mistakenly referred to the city council as a board of directors. We are not a corporate board with typical officers, that is CEO, CFO, et cetera, and board members. We are 7 individuals elected to represent the residents of our city. As I was reflecting on this, I took an opportunity to review the city charter regarding the council's elected officials per section 4.12 of our city charter. Quoting, "The mayor shall preside at all meetings of the council, shall speak and vote at such meetings as any other council member, shall be recognized as head of the city government for all ceremonial purposes and for purposes of military law, but shall have no administrative duties. The mayor pro tem shall act as mayor during the absence or disability of the mayor." Close quote. Regarding the city manager, per the current job description, the city manager serves as the chief administrative officer for the city, ensuring all laws and ordinances are properly enforced, implementing policies and directives to the council, and coordinating the day-to-day activities of diverse city operations and staff. So just need to correct
Thank
what
you.
I said before.
Mr. White? Okay, Muncy?
The bubbles have been flowing at music. I want to thank April Gundy and the CVB for continuing a great tradition in our town, Music in the Park, every Wednesday, 7 to 9 p.m. Right there at Wicks Park. Of course, we talked about the free shuttle there as well. April Gundy is doing a wonderful job. And I'll be there again this week as well. And I've also, we won't see each other until after July 4th, I believe, unless we'll have a workshop.
July 3rd is their workshop.
July 3rd is our next meeting. While Scott's here, I just want to make sure, are we gonna ride in the dump truck this year in the parade? Are we still planning that? Sure.
Yeah.
You guys remember, we did that last year and had a really good time. So I hope that we can get together as a council and ride together in the dump truck. So I'm delightful.
Can I drive?
No, I can help you with that.
Yeah, you guys didn't do it, right? Yeah, you.
It's fun. Yeah.
Oh, no comment.
No comments? I want to say, yes, I'm all in for the dump truck ride. It is a lot of fun and then we do have a good time with that. Also, I want to say that if you guys haven't seen it yet, and most of you probably haven't because it just opened this past weekend, but beautiful, playing at our nonprofit SCA, fabulous. I mean, it's a Broadway quality job. It's absolutely incredible. I had the best time and I was expecting to go and be entertained, but I just really loved it. So I got to give a shout out to the SCA. They did a really good job on this one. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meeting adjourned.